Welcome back to Braintree Today. I'm Sarah Hamilton and you're watching BCAM TV. Now we'll be getting into our latest stories from the week. Escalating strikes in the Middle East are raising concerns about a global economic impact. Israel launched an attack on Iran's Self Pars gas field, the world's largest, triggering retaliation from Iran. Iran responded with strikes on major energy sites in Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait. The back-and-forth attacks have disrupted key energy infrastructure and driven up global prices. Brent crude oil spiked to as high as $119 a barrel, while natural gas prices in Europe jumped up to 25%. Economists warn the escalation could lead to higher prices and possible shortages worldwide. President Donald Trump said the U.S. will not support further attacks unless Iran targets American allies again. Meanwhile, world leaders are calling for de-escalation as tensions continue to rise. Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel confirmed Friday that his government has been in talks with the Trump administration as the communist island faces an unprecedented economic implosion, partly due to a crippling U.S. oil blockade. Diaz-Canel said the talks with the U.S. were in their initial stages and that the two countries are far from reaching agreements. After the U.S. captured Venezuelan's leader, Nicolas Maduro, the subsidies, including oil provided to Cuba from Venezuela, stopped. That oil was helping to keep Cuba's state-run economy running. The U.S. then threatened to slap punitive tariffs on any foreign country shipping oil to Cuba, effectively shutting down shipments from Mexico. For months, Cuba has been in President Trump's sights. On Monday, March 9th, he raised the possibility of a takeover of the island. In a surprise move, President Donald Trump's administration has moved to ease sanctions on Russian oil, a decision that is drawing sharp criticism from Democratic lawmakers who say it amounts to rewarding Moscow while Russia allegedly helps Iran target American forces. The U.S. Treasury Department temporarily lifted sanctions on Russian oil currently at sea on Thursday, March 12th, allowing it to be shipped to buyers around the world. The exemptions are set to remain in place until April 11th. The White House says the move is meant to ease a price spike caused by the U.S. military offensive against Iran. The decision marks a significant shift in America's long-standing effort to punish Russia for its invasion of Ukraine. According to news sources, the Trump administration has been reviewing a range of options to bring energy prices under control as the Iran conflict roils global markets. In medical news, new cholesterol guidelines are suggesting that doctors should start screening and treating individuals in their 30s, aiming to prevent heart attacks and strokes before risks significantly increase. The American Heart Association, the American College of Cardiology, and other medical groups are recommending screening guidelines that highlight the importance of early intervention in managing cholesterol levels. The guidelines recommend screening every 5 years for low-risk young adults and more frequently for more with multiple risk factors, potentially reducing the incidence of cardiovascular events in younger populations. Toyota is recalling more than 550,000 vehicles over a defect in the second-row seat back locking mechanism. The recall affects about 420,000 Highlander models and more than 129,000 Highlander hybrids from 2021 through 2024. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says the seatbacks may fail to lock during adjustment, which could increase the risk of injury in a crash. Toyota dealers will replace the return springs in the seatback recliner assemblies at no cost to owners. Notification letters are expected to be sent to owners in April. Thanks for watching Braintree Today. We'll be right back with more after the break.
I'm Mayor Erin Joyce, and I'd like to tell you about some important projects we're working on here in Braintree to improve the quality of our local water bodies and to protect our town from the dangers of flooding and stormwater runoff. Stormwater runoff is the water generated from rain and snowmelt that flows over hard surfaces and does not soak into the ground. Stormwater runs through a system of pipes in the street and into our local water bodies, such as the Cochado River, Farm River, Manatequit River, and Sunset Lake. In Braintree, we have a separate sewer system. So what does that mean? That means that there are actually 2 separate pipes in most streets that carry stormwater and sanitary sewer separately. So when it rains and water washes into our catch basin system, it ties into the stormwater system, which transports water to our water bodies. Over the past 5 years, the town of Braintree has been working hard to maintain and improve our stormwater drainage systems. Now we're constructing retrofits to the drainage system. These drainage retrofits use the natural process of infiltration to improve water quality and reduce potential flooding in our neighborhoods. At Penniman Park Elder Affairs, we're constructing a bioretention basin behind the building. What that is right before the water, which today runs piped to the Manatequit River. This project intercepts that pipe before it goes and discharges into the river. And it creates a place for the water to go first, which is the bioretention basin. And in that basin, plants and engineered soils will filter the water so that that water that's coming off of the neighborhood right now, unfiltered, untreated, will be collected into a rain garden, and that provides a lot of pollution control before the water ultimately makes it to the Manatequit River.
I'm Rachel Horak. I live here in Braintree, and I'm the president of Sustainable Braintree. We think of ways that we can help our residents of Braintree live healthier lives that are in better harmony with our planet. And we want to be sure that our waterways are clean so that our residents can enjoy them both for recreation and for beauty purposes. The bioretention basin will filter out the bad bacteria out of the stormwater before it hits the Manatequit River. We add native plants that help filter out the pollutants so that the water is a little bit cleaner. Some of the ways that residents can help are reduce the amount of fertilizers that you use on your lawn, picking up pet waste, reducing the amount of garbage in our streets, and also raking the catch basins that you might see on the roadways.
To pay for these projects, we're leveraging grants from the Mass DEP, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, and the Metropolitan Area Planning Council. As a Braintree resident, you should know that the town is actively working on projects that help improve the water quality in our water bodies. With your help and these projects, we will help filter pollution and keep Braintree's rivers, lakes, and streams beautiful for years to come.
Welcome back to Braintree Today. I'm Sarah Hamilton. Now we'll be getting into more stories. On Monday, March 16th, the town of Braintree held the Braintree School Facilities Master Plan meeting in the Cahill Auditorium. Mayor Erin Joyce and Jess O'Connor of ERS presented a summary of facility options, proposed school changes, and what decisions remain to move forward. Here's more from Mayor Joyce.
Real quick before we jump into the work, I want to kind of set the stage for how we got here. This has been, if you're sitting in the audience and you feel like, man, I hear this presentation every year and nothing happens. Well, yep, that's a bit accurate. We have been talking about what to do with the schools and that we should have a plan and a vision for the schools moving forward in the years ahead. And this work is really grounded on setting the stage for an informed decision for the community to make in the months ahead and probably actually years ahead. So one of the main things that this is, one of the main considerations that we have are budget challenges. Our annual funding to support school operations is limited to the revenue growth of the town. So what we've been trying to do in the last couple years is look at not only our projections for the current year, but in the years ahead. And what we've been talking about both at the town council side of things when we're talking about our annual operating budget, but also at the school committee side, is what are we affording? Why does it feel like every year we're talking about less resources, cutting programs, not being able to afford capital investment that we need? And what we've put together here is just a reminder of what's really happening. So right now we spend about 63% of our annual town expenses in support of our schools. So that's related to school operations, benefits for our educators, debt and facility expenses. So as we look at the projection of those, what we see is we know the schools want to grow more than what we can afford. When we look at the annual town revenue that we can rely on, it's usually in the range of 2 to 3%. And what the schools need is probably closer to 4%. In the budget for the 5-year budget projections, we've been carrying 3.5% for the schools, and we've seen as soon as this year on the school budget projections that we really want to be closer to 4%. So we're always going to be kind of trying to catch up to the real need that the schools have. So, and that's just operationally. I'll show a slide later about just the, also the restrictions on the capital side. We have 2 budgets on the town. We have our operational expenses, and then we also have our capital expenses. So when we invest in buildings, we buy fire trucks, we buy police vehicles. Those are capital expenses that are outside of our annual budget. The other thing that we've been contending with is school enrollments and having, more space freed up in the buildings just because we have less students. What we had done as part of this effort last year, we had enlisted, I don't know what their technical title would be, but Cropper GRS is the company we use to look at enrollment projections. So they looked at historically housing trends in the community and then projected with zoning and changeover of housing, just, birth rates and all these different metrics. There's a lot of detail which you can certainly dive into the information we have. But I wanted to touch base on this slide because we have seen historically a decline in enrollment. And when we look at the years ahead, granted no one has a crystal ball, we're really not planning to have significantly more students than we have right now. Possibly less, but around the same amount of students that we have. So how do we plan for that? We also know that we have aging infrastructure. I think for many of you that have students in the buildings, maybe you also went to those buildings growing up, maybe your parents went to those buildings growing up. A lot of our schools have been around and been used and well-loved for many, many years. And this is a snapshot of all of our buildings. So what's interesting about this is many of our elementary schools, even our high school, and in fact, the middle schools before we just renovated them, were all essentially built even before accessibility requirements became something that became best practice for construction in the mid-70s. So you can kind of see, we hear a lot of talk about a high school, that being something that the community really wants to focus on. The high school was built in 1972, so kind of middle of the road for our school construction. We have 2 new middle schools, which is a great thing. But we don't want to lose sight of the fact that all of our elementary school buildings are older than the high school. And I think this kind of shows a snapshot of why we can't just look at, say, building a new high school. We have to keep in mind that we have a lot of other aging buildings that likely aren't meeting what we know are really the needs of our students. And when you look at elementary classrooms, if you remember classrooms like they were on the left, that kind of is how I remember my elementary school. It's very different than learning today. There's breakout spaces, small learning spaces, and the need for technology and the ability to have adaptable spaces. So when we look at trying to fit modern schooling into old buildings, you can quickly see there's a lot of challenges there. And of course, we need a plan. And I think that's really what this is driving at, is getting a plan that has some vision. So if we start to make moves on buildings or we go to build a new high school, what's next? What are we doing about the elementary schools? Now, this is not a 5-year plan. This is probably more like a 20, 30-year plan. And we expect things to change. But I think it's really trying to get a direction, something to get excited about, because I think a lot of the opportunities that we'll hear about tonight are exciting options if you're coming to this with an open mind and some curiosity.
On Wednesday, March 18th, the Braintree Town Council also met in the Cahill Auditorium. The council met with Ted Langell, Chief of Staff from the town of Weymouth, to discuss an MWRA water supply project. Part of the project will be installing approximately 5.6 miles of pipeline within the town of Braintree. Here's more from Ted Langell.
It's nice to be back. Again, Ted Langell, Chief of Staff to Mayor Melise in the town of Weymouth. As Mayor Joyce said, Mayor Melise is here. Also, Deputy Chief of Staff for Operations, TJ Lacey, is with us too. And Ryan Algrove will be doing the presentation from Apex, formerly known as Environmental Partners. Just for a little background, Weymouth, like many South Shore communities, is trying to address our water capacity concerns for now and the future. In addition to that, we have, since mid-1990s, been trying to find a permanent water source for the redevelopment of the former South Weymouth Naval Air Station. So those two issues combined is why we're here and why we're pursuing this pipeline from the MWRA. So this is a pipeline that would come from just over the border in Quincy, through Braintree and into Weymouth and going to our current Gray Pond and water treatment plant. The other part of this is that this time around, as we make this effort, we have the Commonwealth as partners in this effort to develop the former South Weymouth Naval Air Station, with housing being the key component of the Healy Driscoll administration. And This is a development that would be up to 6,000 housing units and over 2 million square feet of commercial space. So a very large project, and identifying a permanent water source has always been the hurdle that we haven't gotten over in the past, and we think we're on the way to getting over that this time around, but that is going to need cooperation with both the town of Braintree and the town of Quincy. So as part of our application, which all of this is a part of now, we will have to have an intermunicipal agreement with the town of Braintree and the town of Quincy as part of our application. So the application is not complete without those things happening.
To watch the Braintree School Facilities Master Plan meeting and the Braintree Town Council meeting, tune into BCAM TV Government Channel, Channel 8 on Comcast, and Channel 26 on Verizon, and check out our YouTube page at youtube.com/bcamtv. A local animal rescue is inviting the community to help support cats in need. The Neponset Valley Humane Society will host its annual Cat Tillion fundraiser on Friday, April 11th in Braintree. The dinner and dance event raises money to help care for rescued cats throughout the Neponset Valley. The organization operates without a physical shelter, relying instead on volunteer foster homes to care for animals until they are adopted. Organizers say the fundraiser helps cover medical care, food, and supplies for cats waiting for permanent homes. The event will take place at the Sons of Italy Lodge and will include dinner, live music from the Reminiscence, raffles, and other activities. Tickets and more information are available on the Neponset Valley Humane Society website. The Braintree Veteran Service Center has announced that the Veteran Pantry is back up and running. The pantry is now accepting donations of new clothing, toiletries, and non-perishable food items, all of which go directly towards supporting local veterans in need. The pantry serves veterans in Braintree, Holbrook, and Avon. Donations can be dropped off at the Veteran Service Center, located at 74 Pond Street in Braintree. Town officials say the reopening of the pantry ensures veterans continue to have access to essential resources and support within the community. The Braintree Retirement Board will hold a public hearing later this month. The hearing is scheduled for Thursday, April 23rd at 4:15 p.m. It will take place at 74 Pond Street on the second floor. Officials will discuss a possible cost of living adjustment, also known as a COLA, for eligible Braintree Retirement System pension recipients. If approved, the adjustment would take effect July 1st, 2026. The public is welcome to attend. The meeting will be held in person with a remote option available through Zoom. National Grid customers in Massachusetts could see higher bills next winter. The utility says it is requesting a rate increase of up to 12%. According to National Grid, the hike would generate about $144 million to upgrade the state's gas delivery system. The proposal must still be approved by the Massachusetts Department of Public Utilities. Customers will have a chance to comment during a series of public hearings over the next month. The first hearing is scheduled for Wednesday, March 18th in Lowell. Additional hearings will be held in Quincy, South Yarmouth, Haverhill, Lynn, Acton, Boston, and online through Zoom. More information can be found at mass.gov. Thank you for watching Braintree Today on BCAM TV. We'll be right back with more stories in the area. But first, here's a look at what's happening this month at the Braintree Senior Center, located at 71 Cleveland Ave in Braintree. The Braintree Senior Center has a full lineup of activities and programs this March for residents aged 60 and older. From weekly social gatherings to special events and educational programs, there are plenty of opportunities for seniors in the community to stay active and connected. The center also offers a variety of weekly activities. Fitness classes are available daily. On Mondays, residents can attend bocce coffee hour at 9:30, the walking group at 10, men's coffee hour at 11, and pool players at noon. Tuesdays feature game days from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. On Wednesdays, the Asian Outreach Group meets at 11, followed by GEMS exercise at 1. Thursdays include quilting at 11:30, pool lessons at 12:30, and knitting at 1 p.m. And on Fridays, pool players meet at noon and movies are shown at 12:30. Several special events are also scheduled throughout the month. Upcoming events include a St. Patrick's Day celebration with an Irish band on March 13th and a chat with Senator Keenan on March 16th. The center will also host a St. Patrick's Day boiled dinner on March 17th, along with a spa day, book club meeting, and technology class on March 20th. Later in the month, residents can attend a fraud prevention presentation from South Shore Bank on March 25th, a craft class on March 30th, and the Just Lunch program and Alzheimer's support group on March 31st. For more information or to sign up for any of these programs, residents are encouraged to contact the Braintree Senior Center directly. The center is located at 71 Cleveland Avenue in Braintree and can be reached by phone at 781-848-1963. Welcome back to Braintree Today. Now let's get right into more stories. An 18-year-old has been arraigned in Salem District Court on charges of murder and home invasion in connection with the death of a Danvers woman. Prosecutors say Anthony DeMaio, a senior at Bishop Fenwick High School in Peabody, broke into the home of 68-year-old Janet Swallow and stabbed her while she was in bed. A judge ordered DeMaio be held without bail and sent him to Bridgewater State Hospital for a mental evaluation. Police say the investigation began after a 911 call reported a man walking in Lynn with a bloody knife. Officers found DeMaio and took him to Salem Hospital, where prosecutors say he confessed to the killing. He is due back in court on April 1st. MassDOT is restarting the process to find a company to rehabilitate and operate 18 highway service plazas across Massachusetts. The state previously awarded a 35-year lease last year to Irish company Applegreen to rebuild and refurbish the rest stops. But the deal collapsed after a losing bidder filed a lawsuit claiming the bidding process was unfair. A report from the state's Inspector General also found the procurement process had too many flaws and raised concerns about possible conflicts of interest. In the new process, MassDOT will divide the 18 plazas into 3 groups instead of awarding one contract for all of them. Officials say the change is meant to attract more bidders and encourage competitive proposals. The state hopes to have a new lease agreement in place by July 1st, 2027. A proposal to allow statewide rent control could appear on the ballot this November, but a new study warns the measure could have major impacts on municipal budgets. The report from the Greater Boston Real Estate Board and Tufts University says property values across Massachusetts could drop by $300 billion over the next 10 years. Researchers say lower property values would mean less property tax revenue for cities and towns. The study estimates tax revenues could fall by 6 to 8% across the Commonwealth. Officials say that could force municipalities to raise property taxes or cut services. Urban areas and college towns are expected to see the largest impacts. Supporters of the ballot question have until May 5th to get the measure approved or gather more signatures to place it on the November ballot. The partial government shutdown has hit home for some at Boston's Logan Airport. Transportation Security Administration officers have officially missed their first full paycheck since the current shutdown began. Fortunately, the shutdown hasn't caused major delays at Logan. Lines at Logan have not been longer than usual, but a busier travel season is quickly approaching, which has some travelers concerned. Mike Gazagian, president of the union that represents New England TSA officers, says 1 to 2 officers have been leaving the agency every day since the shutdown began. He expects the missed paycheck will only accelerate resignations. The union president says they will reopen food pantries to support officers, as they did with the previous shutdown in the fall. Daylight saving time has long been a subject of debate, with clocks changing twice a year. Now, a top lawmaker in Massachusetts says she wants to make daylight saving time permanent. State Senate President Karen Spilka says she supports a bill that would end the need to change clocks. In a statement, Spilka says keeping daylight saving time year-round would be better for health, safer for roads, and remove a common inconvenience. The bill has been sent to the Rules Committee for review before a possible vote on the Senate floor. As written, the bill would move Massachusetts into the Atlantic time zone, used by Eastern Canada and parts of South America. The change would only take effect if at least 2 other states in the region adopt a similar law. The state would also need approval from the U.S. Department of Transportation. Thank you for tuning in to Braintree Today. We'll be right back with more in entertainment. The Massachusetts Breast Cancer Coalition is hosting its annual Against the Tide Swim, Run, and Walk fundraiser to support breast cancer prevention. The event brings together participants of all ages to raise awareness and funds through fitness and community participation. 2 in-person events are scheduled this summer. The first will take place Saturday, June 20th at Hopkinton State Park in Hopkinton. The second event will be held Saturday, June 27th at Nickerson State Park in Brewster on Cape Cod. Participants can also choose a virtual option anytime between June 20th and June 27th. Participants can take part in a variety of activities depending on their interests and ability level. Events include a USATF certified 5 and 10 kilometer runs, a 1-mile competitive swim, half-mile and 1-mile recreational swims, and a 3-mile fitness walk. Registration for the event is open now. For more information or to sign up, visit mbcc.org/againstthetide. Welcome back to Braintree Today. Now here's some new movies and shows that have been creating some social buzz. First, Not Without Hope follows four best friends who face disaster when their boat capsizes in the Gulf of Mexico. Battling massive waves, sharks, dehydration, and hypothermia, they cling to hope as Captain Timothy Close and his Coast Guard crew launch a daring rescue through a raging storm to save them. The film stars Zachary Levi and Josh Duhamel. You can watch Not Without Hope now on Paramount+. Up next, Nuremberg Trials follows U.S. Army psychiatrist Douglas Kelly, who is seeking to carry out an assignment to investigate the personalities and monitor the mental status of Hermann Göring and other high-ranking Nazis in preparation for and during the Nuremberg Trials. The film stars Rami Malek and Russell Crowe. You can watch Nuremberg Trials now on Netflix. Finally, Fackham Hall follows Eric Noon, who begins a forbidden romance with Rose Davenport, the lady of the house at a posh English manor. When an unexpected murder occurs, Eric gets framed, leaving Rose and her family's future uncertain. The film stars Thomasin McKenzie and Ben Radcliffe. You can watch Fackham Hall now on Hulu. That'll do it for news today. Don't forget, Verizon customers can watch BCAM TV in high definition on channel 2128 and Comcast on channel 1073. I'm Sarah Hamilton, and thank you for watching Braintree Today on BCAM TV. We'll see you next time.